the Board of County Commissioners workshop slash public hearing to order. We're really not in an official BOCC meeting. I'm sure all of you know that, but I think it's incumbent upon myself, Mr. Chairman, to say that. I have drafted up an agenda that we will try to follow this evening. The majority of that agenda has to do with public comment, concerns, and questions. That's why we're here. Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
That's Mrs. Hillside speaking right there. When that happens, you speak up. First of all, I want to welcome all of you here, and on behalf of the county commissioners who requested this meeting to give the citizens of this county an opportunity to speak about Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District's proposed augmentation plan. I think through the rest of the evening, you'll hear that referred to as Upper Arks Aug Plan. And we're going to talk about what an augmentation plan is here in just a few minutes. So I want to welcome you. Thank you. If it gets a little warm in here, I was told that we can go out there and ask him to turn the heat down, because we didn't know. As I speak, the heat quits running. But if it does get warm, somebody slip out and go down and ask them if they can come in, because these thermostat boxes are locked, so they'll have to come in and turn them down. I think really on behalf of the county commissioners, I can say the purpose of this meeting is to reach out to the citizens of this county and try to find out what those citizens feel about an augmentation plan for our county or a portion of our county. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns that you want the county commissioners to hear, I think that's incumbent upon us to listen to those. I've spoken with the other two commissioners today. I don't believe we feel like we're here to tell you how things are going to be. That is not the case. I can tell you that the county commissioners voted to oppose this water augmentation plan. I mailed in the statement of opposition, and that went to the water court. And I can tell you why we did that. We did that so that we can have a seat at the table when it comes time for all the documentation from this. It's not really fair to call it a court case yet, I don't think, but it's been filed in court, so I guess really we could call it a court case. So we have a seat at that table, and that is initially why the county commissioners voted unanimously to file that statement of opposition. Did anybody not fill out this sign-in sheet? Did not. Okay, so we'll shoot that around, and here's why. It's not for you to divulge information you don't want to divulge. If you don't want to sign it, you could just write your name. You don't have to put an email address. It would help us to be able to just document how many people were here. But secondly, if you want to know, if you want to be included on anything that the commissioners receive after we have signed that statement of opposition, the only way I'm going to know to include you on that is if your name is on that list tonight. And I don't mean to say I, we, the commissioners. Certainly want to provide the citizens with whatever information comes to us, and the only way we can do that is if your name is on that sheet of paper. And an email address, preferably, because I'm almost certain we're going to get all that stuff electronically, and we'll pass it on electronically. If you have seen the application itself, it was 22 pages long. If we duplicated that 40 times on hard paper plus mail it out, just doesn't work. So it's going to be more than likely all handled electronically. I'd like to go over just some what I call the rules of the proceedings tonight, so we all start on the same page and somebody's not out in the left field and everybody else looking at them going, what in the hell are you talking about? So we're going to limit this meeting to 2 hours. Everybody that has an inclination to speak will be recognized, and you will have the opportunity to speak without interruption. I will gavel any interrupters back into their chair. All of us have a right to speak. And then with that comes the responsibility that you will be timed at 3 minutes. And I will run the time, and I will indicate to you when you have 30 seconds left, and I will ask you to stop speaking at 3 minutes. Is that fair? Can we all live with that?
Yes.
I won't get ignorant and rude about it, but you're here for a reason. You want to speak, and you want to listen, and you want to learn, and we're going to try to honor that. I also believe, the commissioners and I also believe that it is fair for everyone to be heard once before we hear somebody 2 or 3 more times. So I know we're all going to have reactions to what is said, and you'll want to respond to that. But if you've already spoken, you're probably not going to get recognized if there's anybody else that wants to speak first. If you have a question, I would, again, I'm not trying to act like some big hotshot. If you can direct your questions to the commissioners, if the commissioners feel like there's somebody in here that can answer that, then we'll direct your question to that person. And obviously, that person's probably sitting over here. And he's up here for a reason, because that's part of his job, is to answer questions about water, and we'll go through the introductions here in just a second. And I would request respectfully that you do not enter into some long, drawn-out argument, debate, clearing your laundry, whatever, about a personal water right. That's not what we're here for. Mr. Livengood can deal with personal water right issues at a different point. If you want to use a personal water right for an example, I think we would allow that. But we're not here to try to sort out what is or what isn't or what has or hasn't been done right in the past. We're here to talk about that blue line. So if your comments are germane to that blue line, I think we're all in good shape. Has everybody had a chance to sign in that wanted to? Okay.
It's coming around.
Oh, no, it just came back, so, yeah, back against the wall, please. They ever got over here?
Raise your hand on this side, I got to.
Oh.
Start right here, go backwards.
So with that being said, obviously, I want to introduce the commissioners, Commissioner Kanda, Commissioner Prince, myself, Commissioner Flower, and District 13 Water Commissioner Jerry Livengood. I would suspect probably that Mr. Livengood would be asked to attempt to answer most of your questions. I think all 3 of us will be eagerly willing to admit our knowledge on water law very minuscule. We're not trying to misrepresent that. We want to listen tonight and find out what this community thinks and wants to do. Just real quickly, we're going to have opening statements by the commissioners if they so choose, opening statement by the water commissioner, and then we'll move in. I'm going to ask Jerry to give us an overview of what this proposed augmentation plan is, maybe run that 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes, wherever he deems appropriate, and then we will open the floor up for questions, comments, concerns, statements, whatever. So some housekeeping things. I just want to bring you up to speed as to where we're at today and what we've done. On January the 10th, the 3 commissioners and a contingent of citizens in the county went up and attended the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District monthly meeting. Custer County is represented really by 3 seats on that board. Well, 2.5. I have to, and I'm sorry, this is on me, I haven't read their bylaws. I'm an ex officio member and I'm not sure what that means. I know what it means in parliamentary procedure. I'm not sure exactly what that means for Upper Ark. So Mr. Bill Donnelly's sitting in the back. He is a seated board member of Upper Ark and have been for 14 years?
More than that.
Since 1982.
Oh, that's more than 14 years.
It is.
I didn't think you were that old, but I'll... And Mr. Bob Cinderhoff, who just walked in, is also a seated member of the board of Upper Ark and serves as the chairman of that board of directors. And then I have been serving as Custer County's ex officio representative on that board since last November of 17, sorry. And then on January 22nd, the Planning Commission met to talk about this augmentation plan, and I attended that as well. And then there was also, I'm sorry, I got them out of order. On the 14th of January, there were a group of water right holders that met and had a discussion, and I attended that as well. And then on January 31st, we filed that statement of opposition. On the 5th of February, the three commissioners met in a workshop format with Steve Kastner, a former water commissioner and a current water consultant living in Pueblo. Had a couple-hour meeting with him, and then on February the 6th, we met with the Upper Ark Board. A good portion of their board members traveled down here. Some of you were at that meeting, and we met with them to discuss this augmentation plan from their perspective. So I want to, and I lied to somebody. I think it was, who asked me if I had passed anything out? Was Mr. Downey? Did you ask me that?
Dick Downey.
Yeah. And I said, no, I had not passed anything out. I had laid some copies of the statement of opposition form that if somebody, including us, wanted to file a statement of opposition with the Water Court, Division II Water Court has to be done on that form. And I had put 12 copies of that over there on the table. I see that's gone along with those maps, which is fine. And I want to tell you before I forget that that statement of opposition 303W, I believe, is the form number, DFW 303 JDF 303. Yeah, 303. That's the form that has to be filed with the court, and that is available on the county website under the commissioner's link on the right-hand side of that page under press releases. So if you're interested, that's where it's at, because I've had a lot of people ask me where that document lives. It lives other places, but it's a battle for me to get around Division II Water Court's website. So nonetheless, so with that, Commissioner Kanda, I would ask again, we're going to try to limit all of our comments to 3 minutes tonight, so I hope we all respect that, but I'd like to ask Mr. Kanda for his opening comments.
Okay, a couple quick things. We're here to listen. We are a sort of a voice back to the Upper Ark guys as well. We want to understand your issues, like Tom said. I personally, and I'm not speaking for the three of us, but the three of us have done a lot of research, and I personally have done an awful lot from the beginning. We have a ranch up here. I filed in water court by myself for springs and ponds and ditches and things, and done it on my own and understand it. And then I've done a lot of research with the Upper Ark guys, including interviewing Bob Cinderhoff, Mr. Donnelly in the back here, and I've attended several of the meetings over there with Tom and the guys. So what we can do is give you our understanding if it doesn't muddy the water, and we will if it seems to be the right thing. But most of the time we're going to go to Jerry or over here to Bob or back there to Mr. Donnelly, who you heard has been a guy that's been involved from the get-go. So there's an awful lot of rumors. There's an awful lot of misinformation, I think, and there's a lot of just fear-mongering going on that I don't blame you, because we've got to get the transparency out and make sure everybody understands there should be more of these kinds of meetings, and that's our objective here. So I'm looking forward to talking with you all tonight and listening, and I wish we'd have brought 3 Brendas along with us and two Merediths to copy all these questions down. But I think we got a recorder going, so we'll go from there. Oh, you got one here. So Jay, over to you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. Obviously, this issue is near and dear to every single person's heart in the county. If you live in the towns and you're not in a ranch, you need water to drink. Most of it comes from our municipal water supply.
Could you gentlemen speak up, please?
Got a mic?
No, we don't. No, I apologize.
I'll try my best. I put on Facebook, maybe some of you read that, and that may be why you came here, because I felt the word hadn't gotten out very well that we're having this meeting. Like Chairman Flower stated, a augmentation plan was submitted to the District Water Court a few weeks back. That was done without any consultation with the people within the county, and the commissioners had no concept that this was being submitted until after the fact. This raised a red flag, and the three of us scrambled to figure out, how are you, sir? Scrambled to figure out what kind of response is necessary. Why was this not public? Why was this done behind our back? And why did we know nothing about it? When I say we, I'm not talking about commission. I'm talking about every single person in Custer County who drinks or uses water. And I think that's everybody. If not, please see me later, because you're very unusual. So the bottom line is, we were very concerned. We learned a lot very quickly, and we decided that we needed to, A, get this out to the public, that's you, so you know what's going on. We take our direction from you. If the consensus is the water augmentation plan that's submitted is good for the county and we want to continue with it, we back off and we let it go. If we feel that it is not good for the county, not we, you, telling us that it's wrong for the county, then we have to take some steps forward. We did, as Commissioner Flower said, we filed the opposition along with several other organizations. Not so much to say I'm opposed to the plan, but to make sure that we have skin in the game. We will get all the communications, everything that goes on. I don't want to ramble on because I really want to hear from you, but I want to thank you for coming, and we're going to do our best to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a housekeeping thing, if you guys want a chair, if we need to bring some more, we can. If anybody wants a risk, I don't think anybody's taking, well, they are taking pictures, but if you want to risk getting caught sitting next to Paul Winky, there is a chair here. We can slide one over by him.
Or by
If you
Dave.
guys want to come sit, if you're fine there, but you're welcome to grab some chairs.
That's even more dangerous.
Right there. Yeah, we got some over in here. See what I brought tonight?
Randy'd rather sit on the red, that than the saddle.
So thank you, commissioners. With that, I would ask Mr. Livengood to come up and give us a little brief overview of really kind of what an augmentation plan is. I have brought these two maps. If you have a chance to look, if not, after the meeting, you can look at those as well. Thank you, sir. Don't be afraid to yell, because apparently it doesn't travel. The sound doesn't travel as well as I thought it did in here.
Usually they try to tell me to speak a little quieter. So, I'm Jerry Livengood. I'm the water commissioner here in 13, Water District 13. Water commissioners are assigned their district by drainage. Can you all hear me? Good. See, I didn't think there'd be a problem.
Be loud, Jerry, be loud.
So, I administer water rights in our district of 13 on Great Creek and Texas Creek. So that's why I'm here today. This plan includes, that we're going to talk about, includes areas that are not in our district. It's in Fremont County. It's in another water district, so you know that. This is not just limited to Custer County. It includes Fremont County, this plan. So, I've been the water commissioner here now for 15 years. I recognize some real nice people out there that I deal with. I like Daryl still smiling at me. I like that. I'd like to say kudos to the county commissioners for having this meeting, because this is the best chance that the people in this room are going to be able to voice their opinion of the position they want the county commissioners to take about this case. Okay? So, kudos to you guys. Thank you for letting me ramble on up here for a little while. So, let's establish a baseline right now. Okay, we're talking about Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District has filed for an expansion of their area that they serve in a plan of augmentation. And please don't be bashful. Does everyone in this room understand what augmentation means?
No.
Excellent. See, we're making progress, okay? It really is. We can't have this conversation if you don't understand the concept. Right now in this county, in this water district, I administer roughly 25 different plans of augmentation. A plan of augmentation, what it does is, it takes a source of water that a person or an entity has obtained through legal methods. We'll get into this in depth. But it provides that water to provide people a choice to buy that water, an option to buy that water or lease that water to replace out of priority diversion. Okay? The easiest way for me to explain this to you is going to be a current aug plan that Upper Arkansas has in this district right now. Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District owns a water right and a water storage right up here at the Conquistador Reservoir. Okay? So they have water sitting in that reservoir for augmentation. It's been through court. I'm gonna need a glass of water before I'm done here.
Okay, if you need
Thanks,
one right
Home.
now, have some
Thanks,
right
Home.
now, we'll get you one.
I'll go get it, Tom.
Thanks. So, let's use the example. Let's call a spade the spade. There's a commercial business up the road here that's downstream of of Conquistador Reservoir. They have 2 wells on this commercial venture that need to be augmented because they were never in priority in Colorado's system of prior appropriation. So in order for this person to do business here, they purchase water from Upper Arkansas District. So when they're pumping those wells out of priority, then Upper Ark, with my assistance, makes releases from that reservoir, thank you, to the stream to replace those depletions that those wells keep the stream full and prevent injury to the senior water right owners on Middle Taylor Creek and Taylor Creek on down the line. That's what it's designed to do. That is a plan of augmentation. Yes, ma'am.
So how does that plan of augmentation make the groundwater users whole who are also impacted by the pumping of those commercial wells?
It does not, per se, provide replacements to groundwater users. Nuts and bolts right there. If you have a, wow, we're gonna get way off base here. It does not, because the injury is deemed to be to the stream. The two are definitely interconnected, and the injury is to people who have a water right, a surface water right on a stream. A well permit does not give you a water right, but it gives you a permit to withdraw water according to your well permit. It's a fine line, but it's a different line. So, am I clear as mud with what a plan of augmentation does? Do we have any questions? Seriously, ask. Because a lot of people don't understand it, and that's quite all right. If you understand it, we'll move on and talk about the blue line. We good? So you're going to hear a lot tonight in conversation, loosely defined as the blue line. And the blue line is right here, is this area that Upper Arkansas has delineated as their district boundary of where they will provide augmentation in this portion of Water District 13, or our valley, okay? You can see it comes around, you see it comes up quite a bit up here. That's where that Conquistador Reservoir was talking, that I was talking about earlier. That's why it goes up so high here. I worked with them a couple of years ago to determine what this blue line would be based on what is commonly called a sweeping water right, or commonly occurring sweeping water rights on the stream.
Sweeping water rights being, what's that, Tom? Could you define a sweeping?
About there.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you were moving on.
No, we gotta go there a little bit. The sweeping water right is a water right that commonly is taking all of the water out of the stream at that point. Okay. There may be junior rights above them that are still in priority and they are diverting. But commonly, at the lower end of this stream, a sweeping water right is one that's taking every bit of water that is available in the stream to fill that water right. Well, you're an attentive crowd, man. You gotta be serious. This is good. So, this blue line largely was established with a lot of conversation with myself, Chris Manera, I believe, was that who did
Yeah.
talk to him a lot. And we kept it down below what is commonly sweeping water rights because you can't exchange above that. You can't move water up above that sweeping water right and prevent injury to holders on that, water rights holders on that stream. So that's what delineated basically that blue line. So you understand the sweeping water rights. Okay, it varies every month of the year, it'll depend, but those are the common sweeping rights that this blue line is under. Yes, sir.
The blue line is the new boundary that they're proposing.
Yes.
Do we know where their old line or their existing line is right now? In relation to this?
I'll defer that to Bill or Bob, where the existing line is, or if there is an existing line to say other than.
The best that I can tell you without maps in front of me, none of Custer County was in any of our plans at this time. The eastern half of Fremont County was not in it, and that's what precipitated this particular plan. The water rights, that they have will affect some of this area, but as far as the blue line is concerned, Custer County has never been in.
Thank you.
Did everybody hear that?
Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
What Bob was saying is essentially that the plan, there's never been a blue line up and into Custer County.
That's correct.
This is large expansion. Okay. Max?
You mentioned earlier, it's my understanding this is just Custer County, the map is just Custer County. And you mentioned earlier it took in part of Fremont County.
Yes.
So my understanding is part of the water from the Conquistador ponds, reservoirs, whatever you want to call them, could be used, if this is approved, that water could be used in Fremont County, is that correct?
That would be correct.
Anywhere within the blue line.
Anywhere within the Upper Arkansas District, wouldn't it? that water could be used in any of the existing Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy District boundary.
So what other counties other than Fremont County?
I'll let you go.
Okay,
Look at something.
the Upper Arkansas Water Conservancy consists of the following. 1, Custer County. 2 is Chaffee County. 3 is the westerly portion of Fremont County. A small portion of Saguache County that drains into the Arkansas, and a small portion of El Paso County. So those are the counties and the areas that we have at this time. The water augmentation plan today is primarily in Saguache, Chaffee, the westerly portion of Fremont, and I think that covers it, Max. But on the same token, what we have to remember here is for the last 20 years or whatever, the AUG plan has been in place up in Salida and the other areas I just mentioned. Some of that water has also come back into this county. From there, where there's about, well, help me out on this one. I think there's 10 lakes and reservoirs that we store water in outside of this county. We do have water, as Jerry mentioned, up there, as well as storage in Lake Louise. And that water is shipped to them.
Question?
Regardless of approval of this augmentation plan, can't that water already that's in Conquistador be augmented wherever Upper Ark wants to augment it, as long as they go to court? The only difference that this does is makes an easier system.
That is correct. That water that they currently own, and Bob said there, as Bob said too, there's a lot of different colors of water, what we call colors of water. But that water can be used in any of Upper Ark district.
Regardless of this.
Regardless of this plan, correct. They've already got that through in another court case in 10 CW 30. They got that right to do that. Good. So that's all I have. I'll let you take it over, and then I'll just try to help answer questions as needed. Okay. So.
Well, let's move forward while Jerry's up here. If you have questions you want to ask him specifically, we'll take those, other than what we've already done.
Just sit up. Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain as clearly as you just did?
Could you speak up, please?
Can you explain as clearly as you just did how water exchanges are working within this plan? Sorry, everybody's laughing. I must be the only one who doesn't understand clearly.
You're fine. I do a lot of exchanges up here. A lot with Upper Ark, a lot for Deweese Dye. I administered Deweese Dye Reservoir. Bob made a very good point. They have storage in Deweese. An exchange occurs when we're trying to move water up from one of their other vessels, or somebody on water, BLM. I do it all the time for BLM. They have water in Pueblo Reservoir. The conditions for an exchange have to be where there is water available. Let's use Deweese Reservoir as an example. I think that'll be the easiest for you to understand. And I'm not talking down to you at all, okay? Let's say that Upper Ark wants to move 10 acre-feet into their firm pool that they own in Deweese Reservoir, and it's empty right now. And we've done this numerous times in the past. The river call commonly occurs below Pueblo Reservoir. Commonly. You guys, many of you guys with water rights know that to be true. If that is the case, and Deweese Dian Ditch is the only limiting factor right there. If Deweese Dian Ditch is not sweeping Grape Creek, there's extra water, which happens a lot in good water years. Then we exchange water up. We will release water out of their account in this scenario. In Pueblo Reservoir, we'll release 10 acre-feet at a given rate, a given time, and I will physically go catch that water in Deweese Reservoir at the same given rate and given time. Minus, no, we won't get into that, minus a few losses. That's how an exchange works. We can exchange water and have done it numerous times from Deweese Reservoir to Conquistador Reservoir. We have exchanged water many times from Pueblo Reservoir, or a couple times, to Conquistador Reservoir. Again, you have to have extra water in the system going by. Every right has to be full, and we have water going by it. We have water going to the river. Otherwise, I do not allow an exchange.
What would be some examples of when that would occur? When would we have extra water? What's that look like?
Not last year.
Not last year, and that was tough. In a dry year, a drought year, a horrible year like last year, we had a hell of a time trying to exchange water. Now, I could not do it at all until Deweese Dian Ditch ran out of water in their storage account. Then they quit placing a call, and then I could exchange. But commonly in the springtime, after winter water is over, when let's say Deweese is full and spilling, there's extra water coming out. We've caught it numerous times in August, July, August, big rain events. Remember when those used to happen? They did in 2017, they did in 16, 15. But that's when we exchange water, when the conditions allow it. And it's very frequent, it really is. Except, let's throw out 2018, because that was. Ma'am, did you have a question back there?
Well, basically it was...
Okay, but that's a really good question. And that exchange, is very limited. It has to be approved from both the Pueblo Reservoir part, on my part. It's a very controlled, physically exchanging water, moving water from one pool to another pool. Sick?
Jerry, I'd like to consider what George brought up a good point about the fact that Upper Ark right now can sell water. If somebody wants to put in a well or want to go from the in-house to the domestic, they can buy it right now, right?
Not for pressure pump.
No, they can't.
Not in our county.
Not until the blue.
No.
Wasn't that your question, George?
I thought your question was downstream, George.
Okay.
The question I thought you asked me was whether they could move water out of Conquistador Reservoir and send it out of Custer County.
Yeah.
That's what I replied affirmative to.
Into their district.
Yes, into their district, yes.
I think
And
that's
nobody can put in a well now and buy water from Upper Ark right now without that plan.
That's correct. For that
Unless they do an on plan.
Yes.
themselves, but through Upper Ark,
Through
no.
Upper Ark, no.
Or their own Ark plan.
The only place they're doing, the only place they're doing it now is those wells that are right off of Middle Taylor, where they can prevent injury. They don't have a blue line or an area where they can augment in the rest of the valley.
Maybe that's a good point to make that you asked a minute ago. Why is the blue line where it is? And it's where right now Upper Ark can augment water within that new boundary. Before they couldn't augment into the county. like Jerry's saying, other than what Conquistador and Luis had.
So we still can't until we,
They still can't until this goes through the court.
still
That new
can't
blue
until
line
this-
has to be approved in order for him to augment anything in that boundary.
there was a lady back here first, Paul.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I can understand if there's bodies of water that Upper Ark has control of, like Dewey's and Pueblo Reservoir and this Conquistador. And they're allowed to move mud water around there. How does that, or how does this plan affect people who are on the valley floor or within that blue line? If it's not on the valley floor, because I can't tell exactly where it goes, but if you have a 35-acre well or plot and you have your own well, does this take away your water rights to your well? It's only on the surface water? It's only what's coming through the streams?
You have several parts of your question.
I'm trying to figure out where this,
And you asked a very good
why are we
question.
involved if it's just water that's in the, I mean, I understand the ranchers in the valley have, the water's coming down and they irrigate their fields and they take turns and they use the water in rotation, and I
They
understand.
take turns.
Likely they take
How
turns.
does it affect individual people who are just living here in the valley that are not ranchers?
The great question you ask about, I'll address one part of it to begin with, is your 35 acres. Anybody who has, in a nutshell, 35 acres is entitled to an exempt well, domestic well. And so you are allowed on your 35 acres to get a well permit, drill a well. You can water livestock. You can have domestic use. And you can irrigate up to 1 acre of lawn and garden. That's what your well permit allows you to do. But you can't get a well permit today on a piece of land that's under 35 acres unless you provide augmentation water for that well. In a nutshell, I'm not really going to get into our well regs are very, very complicated, but that's it in a nutshell. This plan does not hurt you or help you. You don't need augmentation water on a 35-acre well if you conform to the well permit limitation.
But you would if you wanted to put more livestock on that 35 and irrigate it.
Sure, if you get into a commercial type situation, a dairy, let's say, extreme, you want a 35-acre dairy, you're going to fall outside of your domestic well permit, and so you're going to have a commercial well. And then that's when you're going to have to augment all of the water coming out of that well in a commercial well.
Well, I would expand that to say 5 acres. I mean, I just wanted to know how it's going to affect the individual homeowners, because I think that's part of the fear, that this augmentation plan is going to take away access to water for those of us who have houses here. Or did,
Well, it's not going to take away your well permit or your water, at least on paper, for sure. It is. You have to understand what I'm trying to say here. But it will not affect you in that respect.
Mr. Paul had a question.
Jerry, your last statement about a 5-acre lot that's in Blumenau, let's say, I don't know if they have 5 acres out there, or 7, whatever they are, smaller lots. Are you saying somebody who has a residential lot now that's not developed, not built on, will not be able to get a well permit, they'll have to augment it? Has that always been the case, or is that just a recent development?
No. You mentioned Blumenau. Let's not use Blumenau because Blumenau has a plan of augmentation
I see.
already in
Some
effect.
place.
But yes, in 1972, the state legislature passed House Bill 35. And so any subdivision of land after 1972, if you went under 35 acres, you have to provide a plan of augmentation. The state saw that problem coming, punching numerous holes into the aquifers statewide. So, if your land was subdivided prior to 72, and you are not in a plan of augmentation, you can still obtain a well permit for in-house use only.
So, just one final, just to follow up on that.
Okay.
Are there, how many subdivisions that were developed after 72 have waterlogged plans? I mean, there's a lot of subdivisions, I know that.
There are, let's talk about this fellow. There are 8 plans of augmentation in the wet mountains that are covered by plans of augmentation that were subdivided after 72. 8. The rest of the plans of augmentation in Water District 13 in Custer and Fremont County are not subdivisions. They're primarily other uses, ponds being the majority of them by far. Good to go, Paul? Answer your question.
I thought there was a lady, was there somebody back in the, yes ma'am, go ahead, and then we'll get to Bob.
Again, augmentation plans are only making the surface stream senior rights whole. They're not making the local groundwater users whole by the increased pumping that occurs through an augmented well. Is that correct?
I would not disagree with your statement. I don't have the expertise, and I don't pretend to disagree with your statement. Yes, ma'am.
So that's how they.
Two things to follow on with her. An AUG plan is there to protect senior rights downstream, correct?
Correct.
Number 2, I believe Antelope Valley is the only subdivision without an AUG plan, is that correct?
No.
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 There is an AUG plan?
Antelope Valley has an AUG plan.
I need to call you then.
Feel free. We'll talk about that later if you don't mind.
No, later, it's fine.
Yeah. And I'll answer questions about what subdivisions are or not augmented or had to be augmented. Part of Kuno Verde did, part of Kuno Verde didn't have to. Part of Crystal Vista, part of Crystal Vista subdivided before 72. They didn't have to have an AUG plan. Filing 6A and 6B, stuff like that, they did. So it varies dramatically throughout that east side. There's lots of them.
Okay, Chris, Antelope Valley, you mentioned Antelope Valley, there's 4 subdivisions, 4 filings in Antelope Valley.
4 filings, yes.
So one may not.
I'll follow up with you later.
Yes.
Just tie on to that.
Hang on.
Can you now develop a subdivision less than 35 acre lots without an AUG plan? It's
No.
must, when you file it with the county and everything, is that part of your requirements as a county?
They have to have an AUG plan.
Okay, thanks.
For the state, you have to have it.
Go ahead.
Can you explain the difference between an in-house use well and a domestic well?
Between a what?
In-house and domestic.
Okay, standard domestic well on 35 acres. You can water outside. You can water livestock. Okay, you irrigate up to 1 acre of lawn and garden. We've also got into, I really don't want to get into this too much, but we've got into, as long as you're not growing 1 acre of hemp and it's your primary, if you're not using it in a commercial atmosphere, basically. Okay, in-house use is just that. In-house is only for domestic use, and there is no outside watering whatsoever. You can't wash your car, you can't water a tree, you can't do anything like that. Be advised, okay, just to dispel a little rumor here, okay? Every one of the 8 og plants that I just mentioned in the East Hills, Blumenau, East Cliff, all of those, every one, when they got their water for augmentation, they foresaw that people would like to have horses. Okay? So though every single one of those 8 plans in the East Hills allows for up to 2 horses on the lot. Okay? One of the og plans also allows for limited irrigation of up to like 200 square feet of lawn. Okay? Just so you're aware of that. That was the flexibility that our plan gave that went over what you're talking about, Dan, of strictly in-house use.
But if you got a well prior to 1972, they weren't in-house use, only wells up here. No, right?
Now, say that again, Jackie, please.
If I got a well prior to 1972, it wasn't an in-house use, only well.
They were exempt.
They were exempt.
They're exempt, yes.
So sometimes you see people with horses and stuff, and you're thinking, well, they don't have 35 acres, but they had a well prior to 1972.
Exactly.
So they're also allowed to
Yes,
water.
it is. You bring up a really good point. There were wells that were existing being used, and you made a statement. Yeah, great-grandpa had this well, yada, yada, he's watered horses and stuff, and they got that use.
As long as it was adjudicated prior to 72.
What limits the number of augmentation plans that can be initiated? Is there anything?
What limits the number of plans?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about conservation of water, right? Suppose we run out of water. Can they still come up with an augmentation plan?
Yeah, because they have the water storage.
I'm making sure I answer your question, Bert. You asked a good question, but ultimately availability water have to own the water to have any og plan.
Well, somebody owns the water, is it? So is there enough water so these augmentation plants just to keep coming up?
I'm the wrong guy to ask. I really am.
Well, the limiting factor would be...
You ask a great question, but it's a very complex question.
I can stand it.
You know?
Somebody owns the water.
Who got broad shoulders? Pardon?
If somebody owns the water up here,
Yes.
that's what backs an augmentation.
Yes. Yeah. Any augmentation plan, there's still water available. There's still ranches for sale. Upper Ark still has a lot of water in their pond, in their pool, in their whole plant. There's water available for augmentation. For
But you
how
have to buy it,
long?
right?
In the future, I can't answer that.
But you have
For
to
how
You
buy
have
much
to
in
buy
the
it from a
future?
rancher, a company that owns it, or Upper Ark or something.
Upper Ark, you'd have to purchase the water.
Right.
Yes.
So you always have it.
Water.
Jerry, I have a question for you. If Upper Ark's augmentation plan is approved, and I apply for a well permit on less than 35 acres, the state's going to inform me that I've got to have augmented water, correct?
That is correct.
So, and if this goes through, then I can buy water from Upper Ark to augment that.
Yes.
So let's say in 2020 I do that.
If you're within their blue line.
Right, within the blue line.
If you're in that area that they deem that they can serve, yes.
And so how long is that augmentation plan good for? I've been told 2 different things. So I buy water from Upper Ark, I'm in the blue line, I augment my well with that water. How often do I need to do that?
Every year.
I gotta buy that water every year?
Well, you don't have to buy, I'm gonna field this to you, and let you answer that. You buy it one time.
Right.
And then you have maintenance fees.
Okay.
Maintenance fees, but that water should be, correct me if I'm wrong, but that water has to be available basically at perpetuity.
One time on the buying the water, and then an annual maintenance to Upper Ark.
But that's only if I don't want an in-house use only well?
Depends on what the water op.
Depends on what you buy, commercial or in-house.
It doesn't matter.
It'd be either exempt or not.
To get that well permit, Jackie, to answer your question, to get that well permit, you're gonna have to buy water from them for whatever purposes you tell them you want to use the water
So the other night, Jay asked a really good question, and I thought it would be good to repeat it here. He asked Upper Ark, because in, 2006, is that right, Bob? They had a water aug plan that they pulled. 2009, okay, sorry. That they proposed it, it involved building a whole bunch of little ponds, if I understood correctly. And they ended up pulling it. And so Jay asked, well, why now? Then why are you doing this now? And what they said was, because now we have the water to support it. That they own enough water to support it. And I thought that was, it's nothing nefarious, it's nothing like, now we want to go in and steal some of Custer County's water. It's a matter of, we have the water now and we can do it, and we're very careful how much land we're going to do that on. That's all. Sorry.
You summarized it in a nutshell, and that's what was said at that meeting. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You agree with that assessment, Bob? Okay, it's tough to hear.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
He's standing under.
Just go right here in the front.
Okay.
Lady in the front. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Where are we at? You just point them out.
I just am wondering if we're not mixing apples and oranges here. We're talking about surface water and well water. Those are two different things. When you pump water from underneath the surface of the earth, that's coming from an aquifer or a lake that's underneath this valley. The surface water comes from the rain and the snowmelt. And if we begin allowing too many wells in this valley, we're going to deplete that water that we get from our wells. Is that a fair statement?
I won't disagree with you. Once again, and I'm not trying to be glib, and I
understand,
people say I'm a
but that's not the
smart
same
aleck.
thing as the surface water.
I won't disagree with you.
Okay, Jay.
I won't disagree with you.
Can I make a comment? I think your point's extremely well taken. If there are subdivisions within the blue area and they're able to drill water wells into the aquifer on less than 35 acres, they circumvented what the original House bill was supposed to do, which was to keep the water in the valley and not drain the aquifer. And no one really knows how much water's down there. I mean, I've heard that from multiple experts to this point. No one really knows. So the concern is, I understand if we take water on the surface and move it over here, we augment it by bringing more water over here. I'm fine with all of that. My concern is, and what I'd like to have a better handle on is, if we start allowing subdivisions and permission to drill wells on less than 35 acres, which is what the state legislature felt was the optimum amount to keep our aquifer intact, if we start letting more of that go, and we start getting more, I think Commissioner Flower was the one who graphically said this, and I liked it, more straws in the pot, and we start drinking, eventually this aquifer has to go down. So that's the concern I have. It's not really the surface water, because I think augmentation makes a lot of sense in most cases. It's the aquifers I'm really concerned about. Not next year or the year after, but in 15, 20, 30 years. Someone made the comment, that actually it was J.D. Hendricks who said this today, and I almost fell over when I was in the commissioner's room, when he said there's only 2 states in the United States that does not receive water. Colorado's one and Hawaii's the other. So we don't have, the only water we have is water that comes in from the sky. It doesn't flow in from any other states. We're the only 2. This concerns me deeply that our aquifer is going to be drained. That's where I would like to learn more before I say it's bad, good, or indifferent. I just want to learn more. This is a concern I have.
Isn't it true that some of the wells up over in the East Hills have gone dry? That's what I've heard, so.
I think that can be true. Yes,
Yeah.
there have been wells go dry.
So shouldn't we be concerned?
Yes.
Like Jay said.
All right, so kind of bottom line this, if you can, in your opinion, Jerry, what are the positives and the negatives or risks of this plan for Custer County?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure.
Loud?
What are the positives
and the
negatives or risk, one of the two, for Custer County of this plan?
In my opinion.
Yes, you're up there.
Getting paid the big money.
Yeah, you're getting paid good. Free water and all. Right.
The positive, let me take that side first. It gives you the potential for growth. It gives you the potential to, and growth could be negative or positive depending on how you feel about it, okay? It makes available, just like they're doing now, it makes available a person to operate a commercial business that they couldn't otherwise. So it's, if you believe in the multiplier effect, of course, of money and commerce here, that's one of the plus parts of it. Okay. Ponds, again, ponds are a huge issue in our division. We're still trying to figure out how to wrestle with them. They're doing some injury, and this could be a source of water to augment ponds that are currently not being augmented.
Bring some
In all through, within this blue line.
Bring some ponds into compliance.
Yes. Yes, it will. So, that's two of the positives.
Well, he's not done yet.
I'm not done yet. No, I'm not even close to done.
Hold on, Don.
Hold on,
He's still answering that question.
I'm still gonna answer. Okay, so that's the positive side. The negative side, in my opinion, is that the potential for growth and higher density in some areas is going to be greatly accessible.
I mean, really, what?
Accessible.
Increased.
Increased. It's a matter of density, you know. You take a 35 acre lot out here in the East Hill. If you wanted to augment it and subdivide it into small parcels, you could. And instead of having one home on 35 acres or one well, maybe you have 5 wells on 35 acres.
The only way that can happen, though, the good news part, and I'm going to chime in with him, is the county zoning and planning. They have to get a special use permit, and it has to include the water. And understanding what the growth is and what it's for, whether it's approved or not.
Bill, what you have to do is get a subdivision.
Not an SUP, but a subdivision.
Not a subdivision.
Subdivision regulation.
Right. Or commercial use as well, and that would be a town issue for either Silver Cliff or West Cliff.
If I may just chime in to what you just said, Commissioner Kanda. What this has the potential to do is increase the population of this area by, instead of having one home on 35 acres, potentially in a subdivision, divided into multiple homes with multiple wells. Now, this coincides with something that the county and both towns have going on right now, which is a strategic plan. And the strategic plan, although it's not done, the overall number one issue that over 500 people responded to, 550 people responded to, was we want to keep the valley as it is now. Of course, we're going to have some growth. You can't help that. The lifestyle we have. So the potential of adding multiple new subdivisions and allowing it in because it'd have to be in an augmentation plan, and allowing additional wells, the density, the population of the people in Custer County, potentially, and Bill's completely correct, it has to pass multiple hurdles to do this. One is planning and zoning, and the other is the county commissioners at that time would have to approve it. But it could be done if there's an augmentation plan. So the overall theme of the prosperity plan, as we're calling the strategic plan, is keep Custer County. The multi-generational people do not want lots of new folks and big businesses. And those of us, and I'm one of them, I moved here, 12 years or so ago. I moved here for a reason. I wanted this lifestyle. I don't want to give it up. And this is the kind of thing that this strategic plan has told us that the people in the county really want. The ARC plan, if it's accepted and multiple things fall into place, could jeopardize that by dividing up 35 acres into smaller lots for more people, and it'll grow and grow. That tied in with the aquifer question that you asked, ma'am, are concerns. But it's for you to think about. If this is what you want, this is what we do.
Mr. J, with respect, yeah, that gentleman right there waiting, yeah.
Is there any precedence for limiting acre feet on the drawdown on any wells? In other words, I know in New Mexico, they have limits on acre feet, and, depending on how many houses or whatever you have. So, in other words, at 35 acres, you might say, okay, you get 10 acre feet per year. And that would be, if you could subdivide it into 10 things, then you get 1 acre feet per house.
There's no current statute that restricts acre footage of diversions from a well in this state. Except if there are some exempt commercial wells, that's the only well where we limit diversions to 1/3 of an acre foot. But you're limited by your standard exempt well for your 35 acres to 15 gallons per minute, but there is no total gallonage limit.
Well, how can you manage your aquifer if you don't do that kind of limitation?
A good question. Yes.
I don't have a question, I have a statement. Can I do that?
Sure. Pardon me?
I said I have a statement to make.
Go ahead.
Okay, or a comment, I shouldn't say statement. Anyway, having been a county commissioner here for 8 years myself, and I've been out of office, of course, for 9 years, but back in those days, I remember so many times, because part of my district was over where yours is now, and all those smaller subdivisions that had been created through the years, we kept hearing time after time after time, people would move in, drill a well, get a pretty decent well. And however, that lot beside them or over here hadn't been developed yet. Once they developed it and they drilled that well, then your cone of depression created a huge problem, and all of a sudden this guy didn't have any water that had been there for 10 years. And we heard that time after time after time.
Correct.
And so you can't augment that.
No, can't. I want to go to Donnie and apologize. I haven't been able to get to you, Donnie.
I want to give you commissioners respect for opposing this augmentation. And I appreciate that. We all know that Upper Ark is in the business of making money. bottom line. And so at that point, if this goes through, this augmentation that they're seeking to have, I think that gives every one of us in the valley that have water rights a chance of losing water. And that bothers me because, you know, you got your junior rights, you have senior rights, and this is how we make our living. And so at that point, really, I would like to see every person that has a water right be able to get together and oppose upper arc.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Max first and then John. Max.
I just want to give you a scenario, Jerry, and see if you can explain to me what I'm missing here. But say you take two 35-acre tracts at 9,000 feet in the wet mountains. The valley floor is 8,000 feet. Okay, if you have two 35-acre tracts, and for sake of numbers, you have two neighbors, they both have their wells, they've drilled them to 100 feet, and they have sufficient water at 100 feet. Okay, we're talking 9,000 feet, we're talking 8,000 feet of the valley floor. Okay, we're gonna use water. Let me back up. One of the neighbors decides, I wanna subdivide my 35 acres. So he buys augmentation water from Upper Ark. They release water out of the conquistador ponds at a little higher than 8,000 feet because they're above the valley floor a little bit, or you could call it the valley floor, I guess. I don't know where the boundary line is. Tell me, he's going to buy augmentation water. He's going to increase the flow of his well to satisfy that development that he's going to subdivide, or the 35 acres he's going to subdivide. How is water coming out of the conquistador ponds going to benefit his neighbor and prevent injury to his neighbor?
Hurt his neighbor.
Max, are you saying that the 235 acre in your example is above that? Higher
They're at
elevation?
9,000 feet in the wet mountain.
In the wet mountain.
Okay, we're 1,000 feet higher than the valley floor.
We can't.
They're going to buy augmentation water out of these ponds. How is that going to help the neighbor that's not subdivided?
In my opinion, you can't. But that's an engineering question, but in my mind, you can't.
But the state says that works, right?
Zoning. Zoning is here. Commissioners of the planning commission and a zoning that years if you can do that or if you can't do it. If you got water from Upper Ark or not, either one, it's up to them. With the zoning and planning, they're the ones that make that decision, not Upper Ark.
Are you saying, Bob, that they would make the decision to allow that 35 acres to be subdivided?
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. I think your question, Max, if I understood it right, was how can Upper Ark augment that water if it's higher in elevation? Was that basically it or no?
Yeah, you know, my understanding is the 35 acres, the 35 acre guy that wants to subdivide it, he can buy augmentation water and subdivide it by Upper Ark releasing water from conquistador ponds. But my question is, if that's true, how does that help his neighbor up there?
You have a very good question because it's an issue of underground water and surface water. It's getting everybody confused, and I don't know enough about it. But from what I understand, augmenting the groundwater could, if people can buy it now. And the whole purpose of them, the state coming up with this, was to keep the water in the state. Our argument is we want to keep it in the valley. And so that is what these conservancy districts, from my understanding, are government organizations, which is the Upper Ark is one, in order to do that. But it's not clear to me either how it does. I do know this, that they have engineers that look at each subdivision. You pump the water out, they know that it gets put in back through the septic system and returned to the ground with loss. There is a loss there as you exchange it through that process. And in theory, they understand the aquifer. This is what they told us in the last meeting. I know there's a lot of people here that missed the meeting with Upper Arkansas, that they have the engineering studies and the top, whatever, and they all admitted they don't quite know what the aquifer really is. But there is a certain amount of loss that they can tolerate, and it draws that down. And that's one of the reasons they capped it at 15 gallons a minute. That just is sort of a generic, So in truth, physically, you could put enough straws in the ground, you'd run out of water. That's the issue with the state of Colorado. Why are they allowing all these cities to buy the water from us in these other places when we're selling water to Fountain right now, and out of the Pueblo Reservoir, it's going up to Colorado Springs too, out of here. So how come I would rather have them control that growth down the whole Front Range and quit allowing people to cluster. And that's an issue we have in this county. We don't want people to cluster here either and draw down the existing wells. But